the record button now. So I would like to start and send it over to Susan, that we're going to talk about what is assistive technology, both Susan and Jackie. So go ahead and start then. And don't forget to unmute yourself.
There you go. Well, thank you. And thank you for having us present today. It's a nice way to be able to connect with people and help people understand the world in which we live. So I think I'll start and then hand it over to Jackie. But I'm just showing some pictures here, but we will move very quickly through this and then come back to the pictures. So I am with Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation. We are a statewide organization. We're cousins with Jackie Wardle's organization, just so you know, under the umbrella of assistive technology. Our specialty is providing education, financing opportunities, and advocacy for people with disabilities and older Pennsylvanians, helping them get the assistive technology devices and services that they want. We do 3 things and only 3 things. So we don't do the world. I think you'll hear from Jackie, they do a lot more, but what we do is very narrow and deep. So we provide information and assistance about assistive technology, funding resources, and possibly about vendors. So if people call us and they want to know where they can find something, we will tell people from our experience who's in their neighborhood. We provide financial loans for assistive technology. We are a bank and a credit broker, and we'll talk about that later. And we provide financial education and have our own curriculum on that. We help similar to Jackie. So tonight there are a couple of things for you to remember. This is one of them. Both of our organizations help Pennsylvanians of all ages, all income levels, all disabilities, and all health conditions. So all is all. There are no eligibility requirements about having a specific disability, specific age, specific income. We help everybody. So the question of the night is, what exactly is assistive technology and how do you get it? So I have several pictures to try to describe for you what is assistive technology so that you see the real breadth of it, the whole range and scope. So in the top right picture is an older woman who has durable medical equipment and a Stairglide, plain old assistive technology. So she's holding on to a walker that it's a rollator walker that has wheels, and also behind her you see a Stairglide so that she can get up to her 2nd floor. Underneath, her name's Mrs. Gates. Underneath Mrs. Gates, you see Laura. Laura has a spinal cord injury and MS, and she is a rower, and she has a specialized skull for the Schuylkill. And so remember, assistive technology can help anybody do the things they want to do. This also includes recreation and sports. To the left of Laura is Nathan. Nathan has Down syndrome, and it was discovered when he was in high school that he had a significant hearing loss. So what you will see is he has hearing aids, and to help him keep from losing them, they are bright red. To the left of Nathan is Michael, and Michael has cerebral palsy, cannot use his hands, uses Siri for all kinds of things, including getting an update for his beloved Eagles. And to the left of Michael is Ian, and Ian has Asperger's, and he really wanted to be a sous chef. And it was determined at the time, a couple of years ago, that Ian couldn't work by his OVR counselor. So we helped him get specialized knives, as you'll see. So it's more difficult to cut himself, but he can cut fruit. And then he has what is one of those gloves, I like to call it as a Michael Jackson glove, that makes it really, he doesn't cut through. So it has fibers in it, so he's very protected. More pictures that Megan put together. The far left-hand picture is Alicia, who works with people at Achieva out in Pittsburgh, and she is using her iPad to activate smart home devices, and you see her speaker in the foreground. The upper middle picture is Saria, and you see she has smart home devices up by her door. That's a Ring doorbell. It's her power wheelchair on her ramp. Below her, DJ, is power wheelchair, but again, assistive technology can be off the shelf or customized, and she helped figure out how to have created a snow shovel on wheels. Next to her is Penny, who has autism and does not talk very much. And to learn and to speak, she uses her iPad. Next to her, many of you may know Matt Seeley. He's the executive director of the SILK, Statewide Independent Living Council. He drives all over the place with his hand controls in his vehicle. And above him is a woman who we've helped get hearing aids, but she also had them specialized in that she's an artist, and she has all kinds of art that go around the hearing aids and her ear. This is a little harder to see. And along with assistive technology devices, please remember that AT services goes along with that bundle. So when you're looking for how do I get it? How do I figure out what I need? The whole evaluation, selection, designing, construction, training, repair, important, is all part of AT services and can be bundled up into your funding package. On the left-hand side, you see a gentleman helping an occupational therapist with a 3D printer. And on the right-hand side, you have community members who are building a ramp for someone we were working with. Okay, Megan.
Thank you, Susan. My name is Megan Bolin. I am the Housing and Outreach Director for Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation. And as Susan mentioned, smart home technology has been an expanding area of assistive technology, one that Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation has been working actively for the last few years to try to increase community awareness about all the range of opportunity that these devices can provide. So we have worked and we're funded by the Pennsylvania Developmental Disabilities Council, and our project, Smart Homes Made Simple, which you can visit our website, and that's smarthomesmadesimple.org. It really is about raising awareness about how people with disabilities can use smart home technology to gain control over their environment and also live more safely and independently in their own homes. If you go to our website, you'll see a glossary of different smart home terminology, news, resources. There's blog articles, and I've included links to all of the key information that would be helpful for you with the resources you're receiving tonight. But we did want to highlight, and talking about what is assistive technology, we don't want some of the more generic devices missing out because they do add up and they do provide significant support as assistive technology. So we wanted to cover kind of a few items so that you can see the wide range of devices, smart locks, cameras, and many of these we're very familiar with, having a TV environmental and having that entertainment being voice controlled. The speakers, doorbells, as Susan said, for the outside of the door, having that Ring doorbell so you can see when a delivery comes and you can communicate directly with the person at the door. A hub device is going to connect in multiple different devices and get them to all work together. And then there's certainly some very affordable products like the light bulb, the plugs, which can really adapt an environment with very minimal cost. But again, as Susan related, it's those services of setting up exactly what you need, evaluating, trying out, and getting exactly what it is set up the right way, and you fully understanding how to use it and how to benefit from the technology it has. And so that can be a challenging process and one that we're working to better support Pennsylvanians with. So I want you to join us in this, and please let us know ways that we can help increase awareness about smart home technology. But all these devices protect, automatic door opener. We include price ranges, but it's important to know it fluctuates. Some go up, some go down, and new devices are coming out at all times. So we really want people to think about the breadth of opportunities that these devices can provide. And Susan, I believe, did you have any other parting comments on smart home technology?
Over to Jackie.
Sorry, I was still muted. How do I share my screen? Share screen. So Susan and they talked about the different types of technology, and I just wanted to give you some of the more basic assistive technologies. So hopefully you can see my screen, but there's things that you can use in the kitchen. I have some pictures here.
Jackie, not yet.
Not yet? Well, let me find out what I did wrong. Share screen.
And then pick
And I
which
want
screen to
this.
make sure that it's highlighting the one that you want.
This is the one I want. Can you see it now?
No, not yet.
Well, I might have to just tell you then. Share screen, screen. Okay, I'll just say then. So we can have things like pizza cutters to use instead of cutting with a knife. You can get big print timers, kitchen timers, talking microwave ovens for people with vision issues. In daily living, there's button hooks and elastic shoestrings, long-handled shoe horns, zipper pulls, sock aids, things for in the bathroom, a bedside commode, a tub transfer bench, a handheld shower, which some people just have in their homes, but for somebody who is sitting on a bath seat, that's their assistive technology. Otherwise, they have no control of where the water hits them when they're bathing. Adapted telephones, phones that now with Siri, that's very common, but for somebody who cannot dial the phone, that gives them access to the phone. There's just a large variety. I just want to make sure that you know that it's not just the fancy things. It's some of the basic stuff, some of the everyday things also. I don't know who's next on the list.
I believe it's me. So okay, is that right? Did I get it right, Susan?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
Seth is next.
All righty. So let me share my screen here. How do I do? Can you see me?
Yes.
All righty, perfect. Let's blow it up a little bit. All right. So my name is Seth Acosta. I'm with the Sierra Group, and we work with assistive technology accommodations in a lot of capacities, but largely as they relate to here I'm getting some reverb. Largely as they relate to students who might be transitioning to a next level of their schooling, or a student who might be transitioning out of schooling and into the workplace, or somebody who is at work that might need an accommodation. So we do the evaluations for what assistive technology might be appropriate in that capacity. And we then will assess the individual, will make the recommendations for the equipment, and then we'll train on how to use the equipment. Because as it was noted earlier, all this stuff is terrific and relatively intuitive, but if you don't have the appropriate training on it, it kind of doesn't hold its value so much. So we have, the Sierra Group has been around for a number of years. I am trying to flip my screen and it's not letting me. Okay, so we've been doing this for 20 some odd years. Right now, the interesting thing is how are we doing this remotely? And the difference in students who might be learning virtually. And one of the things that I was asked to speak on tonight is, when is it appropriate to have an assistive technology evaluation done? And my answer to that is, as soon as you think you, or maybe a child, or somebody, a loved one, is struggling at work, the second you think, oh man, I'll bet you there's something out there that could help, that's when you get that done. The sooner, the better. And I often say that we will work with students who get the evaluation done when they're, say, 18 years old and they're transitioning to college in 3 months, and all of a sudden now they need to learn, you know, these 3 or 4 new items on their computer, in addition to transitioning to college. So what we find is, obviously, when evaluations are done at a young age, the more interaction occurs, and the less stress happens for students who are trying to get to that next level. What an AT evaluation is has 1,000 different answers to it. It's essentially, it's a holistic look at what the individual needs in relation to what their goal is. So there are no two evaluations that ever look the same. Evaluations occur for people with physical disabilities, cognitive disabilities, neurodiversity differences, hearing differences, visual differences, auditory differences, speech input, speech output. All of these things are appropriate times to try to seek out an assistive technology evaluation. What we really try to do is customize the tool with the individual, and that happens through getting to know somebody. And right now, a lot of that is happening through Zoom, but we also do it through Facebook, or excuse me, Zoom. We also do it through FaceTime. We also do it through Microsoft Teams, and that is one of the things that we're seeing that's very different, that we are kind of keeping up with, and keeping our clients up with, is, what does virtual training look like? What does your virtual job look like now that you're at home? How do these accommodations that you might have been comfortable with in the past working out for you now? Do we need to look at differences or tweaks? And one of the things that we're finding is that assistive technology has really changed since the 20 some odd years that we've been doing this. Assistive technology might be an iPad with 4 different apps on it now, or an iPhone that the individual might already have. A couple weeks back, I made the recommendation for an individual who was about to take their next step into employment, but were unable to read. And one of the things that we were able to match was an app that could take a picture. This individual was working in the kitchen, and what we were able to do is take a picture, get him set up with an app that can take a picture of, say, a cleaning product, and it will read out loud to him exactly what that cleaning product is for. It uses software called optical character recognition. The beauty of this is, we know how all this works. It's really easy, and we just have to kind of get people past that somewhat sometimes intimidating concept of technology. This is not something I want to learn. But there is an accommodation for everything, and we are excited that Mac and Windows is starting to kind of get on board with how to accommodate people very differently, using what we think of as very mainstream technology. And we do like to get very creative with our recommendations. So I'm going to try to play you a video. I think you should be able to hear it. If not, could somebody just let me know, and I will just explain to you what the deal is in this video?
Not yet, Seth.
Can't hear it, or it's not playing?
No, can't hear it.
Okay, well, that was a fail. I thought that might happen, so I'm prepared to explain it. This was an individual that was working at a call center and utterly qualified to do the job. The individual had Asperger's, but there are so many variations of Asperger's. The trick with this individual was he had numeric dyslexia. So when somebody would say $19, he would write $91 or $91,000 or whatever the case may be. So we had set him up. We set him up with just an old-fashioned iPad. And what he would do would, when the person would say $19, he would hit record on his phone, or he would hit voice memo on his phone and say $19, and it would type that in on his phone. He would look down at his phone and he would type in exactly what his phone said. So it was able to kind of save his job because of this one little glitch, and he was excellent in all these different areas, but that one little glitch was off, and it was going to cost him his job. So there are a lot of creative ways to make technology happen, and we really do kind of pride ourselves in thinking out of the box and getting weird with stuff. One of the other great tools that we recommend is the LiveScribe pen. It's a fun little pen that I use myself. What this tool does is it records everything that's being said. So this is a great tool for students who might have attention deficit or anxiety disorders, and they kind of get misaligned in class. They're able to record in audio format with this pen, and then they can go back and listen to their recording over again. They can download it to their computer. They can email it to themselves so they can, when they're working out or walking to class, they can listen to lectures over again. The other thing that this pen does is it allows somebody to take a note and 10 minutes later, jot down another note, and so on and so forth throughout the course of a lecture, and then go back at the end of it and take their pen and touch it to a note that they wrote down, and this pen will write back or play back what was being said at the time that they wrote that note down. Very, very helpful tool. So kind of to answer the questions of who, when, what, anybody can benefit from an AT evaluation as soon as somebody thinks that, there's a tool out there that can help me. The Sierra Group does AT evaluations, obviously. Mostly we work with OVR. We also work with private trusts and schools. So if there's anybody that's in need of an AT evaluation, we can find a way to make all of that work. My information will be there. As I told Maureen, I'm sorry, I have to jump off the call. Had a rough weekend and ended up breaking my ankle. But if there are any questions, and I know I shot through a lot of information quickly, my email is up here, and it will be on the resource guide that Maureen will be kind of sending out to everybody. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm so sorry that I have to run. But Maureen, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. And I look forward to any questions or concerns anybody has.
Seth, above the call of duty to come and do it even after all that, but thank you. And yes, we will make sure that your resources are available to people and they can reach out to you if they have further questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maureen. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you. So you'll stop sharing?
Yes, I will go away.
There you go. Okay, thank you so much. Jackie, if you could talk about the TechOut program and whatever else that you would like to share about UCP, that would be great.
Yes, we'll turn my mic on. So I work for United Cerebral Palsy, UCP in Camp Hill, but one of the things we do is we subcontract with TechOwl. It used to be called PIAT. They've rebranded a couple years ago, and they're now TechOwl out of Philadelphia. And we subcontract with them to help with some of their programs. One of the things we do for them is we do demonstrations of equipment. Pre-COVID, we did them one-on-one. Now we're doing them virtually as much as we can. It's a little difficult with things for assisted listening when people can't hear how loud things are coming through. But we've done our best to work around that. So there's no charge for demonstrations. It is not an assessment or an evaluation. So we're not there to say, we're going to try all these different things and this is what you should get. It's more of, these are the different features of these pieces of equipment. Here are your next steps. And it might be borrow something. It might be get an assessment from a speech therapist. It might be, well, you know, this is working and you can choose whichever one you want. And here are some funding options. It all depends on what we're demonstrating. Another one of the things that we work on with Tech Owl is the Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Lending Library. In there, they have a variety of equipment. There are speech devices. There are, adapted toys, switches. There are iPads and Chromebooks now with hotspots. So if somebody wants to borrow it, especially with people being somewhat isolated right now and not being able to go out and visit with family, they can borrow an iPad and a hotspot and let us know what apps they want on there. Do they want FaceTime or Facebook or Zoom, or do they want some games on there? What do they want? And then we'll have the apps loaded on. It'll go out paired with a hotspot if they need it. They can do telemedicine on there. They can do all kinds of things on there. But the idea is people can try these things. They're 4-week loans. Try them to see how they're going to work before they go and spend money on something and then find out it does not work. So especially with things like the speech apps, I know a lot of speech devices go out, and that really helps with justifying for insurance or whoever your funder might be. What else do we do? We have the free special phone program. That program does have income guidelines on it. It's 200% above poverty. And I know in the resource list, there's a link and that will have the guidelines. The ages for that program only is 6 and above. For the other programs, it's all ages. The phones are for people with cognitive issues, deaf, hard of hearing, blind, low vision, and physical disabilities. There are regular landline house phones, as well as now mobile devices. So there are things like Galaxy and iPhones in there. Ring signalers, if they can't hear the phone ring, there's the visual alerts, things to make it ring louder. And we also have those, not the mobile phones, but the other phones are in the lending library for people to borrow. And we also can do demonstrations on those. And the last program, which at UCP is our biggest program, is our reuse program. The way Tech Owl is set up is they have resource centers across the state. And for you guys, I would be the resource center. But we take equipment in, donated, durable medical equipment, assistive technology, clean it up, make sure it's in good physical condition or good condition, so it's going to be working. And then we give that out free of charge. So it's all driven by donation. Whatever has been donated to us is what we have available. It changes on any given day what we have. We recommend people call us or email us to find out what we do have, to make sure it's not put on hold for somebody waiting pickup. With that program, we have always Cloroxed. We have always had a steam cleaner and ultraviolet light, lots of Clorox. But now the new thing is contactless pickup. So we tell people, call us when you get here, call us from the parking lot, pop open your trunk, just like going to Giant for the grocery store. So we'll put it in. We can email them the form, so we can give them the form and give them a pen to write with. And we tell them, just like when you go to vote and sign in, you keep the pen. When equipment comes back to the lending library, and also when equipment comes in for reuse, it sits in quarantine for a couple of days, and then we check it and clean it. So it's not like things come in and they go right back on the shelf. So that's the newest thing, is the quarantining and the contactless pickup and drop off. I believe that is all of the programs that we do for Tech Owl. We do help with funding. We don't specifically provide funding, but we have funding resources, and we give out Susan's name quite frequently.
This is a very collaborative world. We're all here to help people, and so we all refer to each other. So Susan, do you want to pick up with about some funding or whatever else on PATF?
I think I'm going to be doing a little bit at the end, and Megan's going to start us off, I think.
Okay.
So she gets to share her screen again.
And don't
And you're
forget to unmute.
There we go. Sorry for the delay. So as Maureen said, this is very collaborative group. Once you've gotten your evaluation, once you've talked to Tech Owl, once you've explored kind of what it is you need, you have an idea for it. You're then at the situation, you know what you want, you have an estimate, you've talked to somebody, you're clear that this is it, and you understand the services total scope of what it is. We have 2 financial loan programs that we want to make sure that you're aware of, and we have some exciting news to share. So we're very happy to be talking with you today about the expanded pilot program. If you have, many of you may be familiar with Pennsylvania Assistive Technology Foundation and our loan programs for assistive technology. Our mini loan program, which is 0 interest, 0 fees. It used to go up to $2,000. Due to the pandemic and our needing to really respond to the critical needs of the community, our board has taken action to ensure that we can expand that program for a pilot study for the first part of this year to see how much more impact we can have with these funds. So up to $7,000 now, 0% interest, 0 fees. And along with this, we want to make sure these loans will be from our office. One of the strengths of PATF is the staff who work behind the scenes to make these loans happen. And this mini loan program will keep all the programs and services within PATF. You do not have to deal with the bank directly. You're dealing with the lovely people who are working in PATF to help people get these loans for assistive technology. So it's important to know that that's a fantastic program that we have right now, and we want to make sure that people are aware of and certainly getting information on it if it's something that would be a good option for you. It's also important, we want people to know if you're low vision or blind, we have grant programs that are specially funded. If you are low income, we are able to provide a partial grant if you have applied for a mini loan. And so sometimes the cost of a device, we may be able to pay $500 or $1,000, depending on what's available towards a device. So that's an added benefit of applying for the loan is for low income and these specific low vision or blind borrowers. There are going to be additional funds available for you based on some grant and the generous donation of the PATF board. The other program, so outside the scope of the 0%, 0 fees loan program, we also have our low interest loan program. And so that is for amounts really above $7,000, but up to $60,000. That's going to have a flat rate of 3.75% interest. Again, 0 fees. There's no fees at all with this. That means no application fees. That's no closing cost fees, early payoff fees, absolutely no fees. So we also want to let you know if you have no credit or poor credit, but you have the ability to repay, we will be able to guarantee up to $35,000. So thinking through, the larger low interest loans, that could really help out if you need an adaptive vehicle. If there's another funding source that you can use, to work it together, that's always a good option. And then also like home modifications, you sometimes they can be quite costly, expensive, can get up to that $65,000 mark. But it could mean the difference between having institutionalized care and being out in the community. So we think these are important options to have. We want to make sure everyone's aware of them. And one of the pieces that we also do, and Susan spoke of in the beginning, is our loan programs where we provide this valuable funding for assistive technology. But for people that are really starting the process and starting to think through, what do I need? How do I fund it? How do I find it? What are the questions I don't know I need to ask? We worked with so many borrowers over the years that asked the same questions that we developed this funding guide for assistive technology that really does an exhaustive job breaking through all these questions that we get and explains and provides resources to anyone who's trying to navigate this complicated process. So we'll show them what's worked for other people, how they can create a funding strategy by maybe braiding together multiple funding sources, how they could appeal decisions, thinking through if there's denials. And we have a list of over 50 funding resources in Pennsylvania. If anyone on this call would like a copy, please let us know, get in touch, reach out to us afterwards. We'd be glad to send you a copy, but you can also download it directly from our website and share it with anyone in your programs or friends and family who would benefit from this resource. I can't go into all the agencies that are listed in the funding resource guide, but I did want to share details on a couple that are here. Achieva Family Trust, which is really a fantastic organization, and they do excellent work in terms of supporting assistive technology. Their categories, they will cover camp recreation, medical, products or supplies, disability related modifications. And this is children and adults with intellectual, physical, and behavioral disabilities. Virginia Del Sordo Last Resort Fund, again, that's through TechOwl, and they can certainly give a lot more information on that. But it is a last resort fund once you've kind of exhausted Medicaid, Medicare, or other private insurance, education, OVR, those types of funders that may be covered. There's also the Association of Blind Citizens, AT Fund, and that can cover up to 50% of the price of an adaptive device or software. And so it's usually about a maximum of $200 the Del Sordo Award is a maximum of $200. The products covered by the Association of Blind Citizens AT Fund, it starts with a minimum of $200, maximum retail at $6,000. So there's some income requirements, but you can get links to any of these and find out more from our guide. The Vision Corps, you can contact PATF and we will provide that as part of our loan program. Fred's Footsteps is a fantastic resource that provides interim funds for otherwise financially stable families to help them when there's a child illness or a traumatic injury. So that's another resource that might be good. The Variety Club does a wide range of assistive technology funding. And then there's also the Kellyanne Dolan Memorial Fund, which helps families caring for children with serious illness, disabilities, and injuries. That program, social workers, caseworkers, nurses, therapists, and other healthcare workers, they do refer the patient families for assistance through that. So sometimes you have to be in the know. And that's what we really wanted to do with this guide, is make sure that we give everybody the information they need so they can start to untangle this complicated system.
Megan, can you go back for just a second so I can add a little 2 cents? So, you did an amazing job of trying to give an overview of some of the funding resources in there. we're updating the guide, and it will be available in the summer, but it's only a year old. It's just that during this pandemic, we know that funders have changed. Here Now, for example, which has funded for many, many years hearing aids for people who are low income, they've now gone out of business, and they're not going to recover. Another resource around weighted blankets for people, they now are only working in Colorado. So we're updating this. And again, it's useful for people when you're looking at funding resources to call ahead or to email. And with these resources that Megan listed, some of them will not fund entirely the AT that you want, but you can cobble them together. So for example, the Jenny Del Sordo Last Resort Fund, which I suspect that Jackie has used to helping people, it's only up to $200, but you can also work with Achieva. And so together you might be able to get a package, or Fred's Footsteps, or the Kellyanne Dolan Memorial Fund. Many of you may know Cerebral Palsy Association of Chester County. That's one of their go-to places that for the families and the children they serve, it seems like they have a direct line so that most of the assistive technology that those children need, again, it's all disabilities, they are able to get those devices funded by the Kellyanne Dolan Memorial Fund. So it's well worth your time and energy. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that everybody has an application process. The beauty of us telling you about funding resources and also our loan programs is we can tell people which funding resources are out there in addition to school, in addition to VR, but it's a choice. So if you come to us with a mini loan program and you give us a completed application, you know, we're the bank. So we can just, make a determination the next day. And if you can afford to repay a loan, we can send you out the promissory notes then. So it's a very quick process, whereas some of these funding resources, they're not as quick. But in comparison, OVR can take several months, or schools, you go through the IEP process. That can take quite a bit of time. So it's our view is that we are empowering the family member, the professional, the person with a disability with the information, and then that person can do what's right for them. Waivers. All of you probably know about waivers, but I wanted to give you a quick overview of what's happening right now in our world around assistive technology, because things are changing rapidly. As you know, the kind of the mothership for waivers is Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, and then it goes into two silos, major silos. There is a third silo, but I'm talking about two major silos. The Office of Developmental Programs for people who have an intellectual disability or autism, or the Office of Long-Term Living. And those waivers also autism, but people have physical disabilities, traumatic brain injury, and the old aging waiver. So I'll take them one at a time. The Office of Long-Term Living now really has two waivers. It's OBRA for people 18 to 21. And then if you have a physical disability or a nursing home eligible, you move into Community Health Choices. But for some people with autism, they stay in OBRA. There is also an attendant care waiver, but they don't have assistive technology, so I didn't include them. Community Health Choices is the big waiver that is now statewide, and it came into phases. So you've probably heard of Community Health Choices. And the way you get your services is through one of three managed care organizations, AmeriHealth Caritas or Keystone First, depending on where you live, what it's known as. I live in Southeast Pennsylvania. We know it as Keystone First. The rest of the state knows it as AmeriHealth Caritas. UPMC, and then Pennsylvania Health and Wellness. What has happened, particularly in the last year and a half, is that there is no waiting list for community health choices. So some people who might normally have been served by one of the waivers in the office from the Office of Developmental Programs, they have enrolled in community health choices. So you find people who have an intellectual disability and autism who are enrolled in community health choices. How is this possible? Because it is not diagnostically driven. To enroll in community health choices, yes, you have to be low income, like all the waivers, but it is based on what are your needs? What are you, do you need help with mobility? Do you need help with assistance with food shopping, with financial management? So they're looking at needs as opposed to diagnosis. So just know that that shift is happening. I think it's a bit of a surprise to the Office of Long-Term Living, but what they have recently done, and I'm pleased about it, as of January 1st, it is easier to get assistive technology through community health choices. For all kinds of assistive technology, I will talk about that in a minute, but you no longer, there are a variety of people that can help you do an assessment and evaluation and then help you acquire it. And the other branch of this tree is the Office of Developmental Programs, which many of you know about. Those programs are funded, the waivers are funded through the counties, and you have 4 waivers. Person family directed supports with a cap of about 33,000, community living cap about 70, consolidated without a cap, the adult autism program, and of course the counties have some base funding, which I wouldn't count on, but they certainly have helped some of the people who've come to us with like a one-time only or a unique situation. Next. So what makes it interesting, and you can find this chart in our funding guide, but it's going to be updated. ODP is undergoing waiver amendments, and some of this is going to change. So for both the all of the intellectual disability waivers and the adult autism, there is a $10,000 lifetime limit for assistive technology. Shameful, in my opinion. Independent living technology. There is no such thing right now with adult autism. There are proposals to include it. For the intellectual disabilities waivers, there's a $5,000 annual limit for independent living technology, but they're separating it out a bit. And now they're going to be talking about independent living technology, that's smart home technology. So speakers, doorbells, lights, sensors, alarms, and then there's going to be remote supports. And that is thought of more like sensors and cameras, things to help make sure people are safe. But as you well know, many participants don't really know about or want the monitoring. They really want the smart home, and that's independent living. And so that's where you can get it, is under independent living technology. But ODP is proposing to separate it out, which I think is great. Home accessibility adaptations, both adult autism and the ID waivers, offer $20,000 during a 10-year period. If you move, you get another $20,000. So, and there's also the variance. So if your disability changes radically. And lastly, you will find the vehicle accessibility. This is where we've had quite a few opinions about this. And I must say ODP is ignoring our opinions. And that is because for vehicle accessibility, you've got $20,000 in the ID waivers during a 10-year period. The reason we have been giving them some opinions is because a lowered floor ramp and tie downs is easily $25,000. And ODP and Jeremy Yale's response to me is they would be willing to consider this if they had demand, but there's very little demand. So if you are a wheelchair user, and you need a passenger van, for example, or you're a wheelchair user and you need to come in on a lift or a ramp, go through this system, because ODP and the Office of Long-Term Living and the managed care organizations, they're not paying for the car, the chassis. They're paying for the adaptations only. And right now, $20,000 really isn't going to cut it. So anyway, you can have an opinion, help bolster. They're willing to listen to us. Next, community health choices. This is the beauty of community health choices. We're ironing out wrinkles as to how to work with the managed care organizations. But they know their responsibility. They are funding this. And again, here's the difference between the two silos. There are no limits on how much assistive technology and how much it costs. There are reviews for both systems, and the reviews are changing. So the review is a little higher now than it was in December because of the new waiver amendments for community health choices that went into effect January 1st. But there are no limits to AT, no limits on independent living, no limits on home accessibility, and no limits on vehicle accessibility. So if you have a physical disability, it is worth really looking at which waiver will fit your needs the best, because this is, you will be able to get a roll-in shower, ramp, lifts that you need, as well as the vehicle adaptations you need through the waiver services here. You can find a copy of this chart. You can email us, and our email is going to be at the end. You can also find it in our book that Megan talked about. And it again will be updated this summer, but one of the things we will be doing is including for everybody the updated chart and the evaluation. Like for ODP, they're looking at raising the limits of what needs an independent evaluation and a more serious look. Next. And lastly, I wanted to let you know, Maureen wanted us to be able to have an opportunity to talk to you about all the things we do. I'm very quickly going to talk about our financial education. In order for people to live in a home of their own, or to go to work, or to be part of the community, pretty much the foundation is learning about money. So we have created our own, which other folks have borrowed, FDIC, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We've created our own financial education book called Sense and Sensibility, A Guide to Money Management. You can download it from our website. You can ask for a free copy from us. It's in English and in Spanish. It's fully accessible. Our brand new website will be launched later this spring, which will allow for more interaction, badges, a certificate program. We'll have pre-test, post-tests if you want them. There's an educator's companion guide. So if any of you are working with waiver participants or people in your neighborhood or your children, we have companion guides. So some people tell us that the people they love don't really understand money. Well, we've, in our educator's guide, make suggestions of some great books that, you know, people can help learn about money. We've done a couple of pilot programs, including with Achieva, and for people who want to have a home of their own. And it was very successful. It's not just about budgeting or money mapping. It's also about safe ways to save, about the ABLE program, about working, going and, you know, the protections around working. It's about housing, identity theft, transition checklist. So I would recommend people look at it, see if it fits for them now or in the future. And again, if you're looking into acquiring assistive technology, you know, we certainly recommend going to Jackie's programs and looking at, do they have equipment you can borrow first to see if it will work for you? Is it in their reuse? Or do you just want to get it off the internet, which is certainly happening in the pandemic for us. We're seeing that. Or their doctor recommended it and they know what they want. You come to us with the device you want and the vendor you want, and we will tell you about funding resources first and always offer you our loan programs. We're not small. We're small in staff, but we've helped over 4,000 Pennsylvanians with $42 million worth of loans. The stuff is important. We want to help you. And I guess at the very end, after our friends follow us, then we can answer questions. And Megan, did I leave anything out?
No, I think you touched on it all. If you have questions, do reach out to us, connect, visit our website. But our emails are here. Contact Susan or myself, and we'd be glad to help in any way. So thank you all.
Thank you. And Susan, Megan, and Jackie, if you can look at the question in the chat box and see if it's something that you can answer while we're going on. But right now we want to move to Lancaster County Behavior Health and Developmental Services and have them give an overview of the role of the supports coordinator. So Jill and Jennifer?
Yes.
There you are. Okay, good.
Jennifer, did you want to start out talking about the SC role?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Jennifer Burnett and I'm from Lancaster County BHDS. And we provide support coordination services for individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism through ODP. And so for our program, when you're looking into assistive technology, really the support coordinator plays a very important role in that. They're kind of the key in beginning the process of determining whether assistive technology can be a benefit to the individual and exploring the funding options for that. Because IDD funds are kind of funding of last resort, the SC would be working with the individual and the family to explore other funding that may be available, such things like IDEA for students, MA or other insurances, as well as non-disability specific loans or grants, such as some of the things that were presented here. When going through getting assistive technology with BHDS, there's a lot of things, a lot of questions that have to be answered and kind of a formal process that goes with that. Things like exploring the questions of how this is going to increase the individual's independent living functioning. Have they used devices in the past? What has worked? What didn't work? Was there an independent evaluation of the individual's assistive technology needs? That's an important piece when accessing our funding for that is having an independent evaluation conducted by a licensed physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech language pathologist, or a professional certified by the Rehabilitation Engineering and Assistive Technology Society of North America. Yes, that's a mouthful. But these are all professionals that would conduct an evaluation to determine what are the assistive technology needs that the individual has and what are the types of devices that would best meet the need. So after you would get through those questions, you would have to do things looking at the cost effectiveness of the device, looking at an evaluation plan, talking about what needs would be met by that assistive technology, and showing how it would be of a financial benefit for the waiver programs, how it would substitute for in-person services or alleviate the need for other services, and then outlining the goals that the individual would like to achieve with the use of that device. So through the waivers, there's a lot, the ODP waivers, there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through, and the support coordinator really is the guide to help with that. What do you have to add, Jill?
Okay. So my name's Jill Martin, and I'm a program planner with Lancaster County BHDS. And at BHDS in Lancaster, at least, we only deal with 3 of the waivers that were mentioned, but we deal with the consolidated, the community living, and the person family directed supports waivers. So if you're someone or your loved one has one of those waivers, the waiver will allow assistive tech funding for device or product systems that increase, maintain, or improve the person's functioning or increases their ability to exercise choice and control. So that's kind of how the waiver defines what the product needs to do. And we also have the home, and so a lot of this was mentioned by Susan's wonderful chart there, which was extremely useful. A lot of the things that I had noted were already mentioned in that, so I don't want to repeat too many things, but we do stair lifts and things like that too. Those are called home accessibility adaptations, vehicle modifications, and then the assistive tech is things like anything from as small as like, you know, an iPad or a tablet, the whole way up to, you know, like more expensive, maybe communication devices and things like that. The waivers also do fund hearing aids as long as it's recommended by a appropriate professional. So that's kind of a nice perk that was added a couple of years ago. If you don't have a waiver and you or your loved one has an open record with us, there also is something called base funding, which again was mentioned earlier. This is a more limited funding stream because we don't get a whole lot of base money each year, but we do get some. And basically right now, you know, you would need to talk to your support coordinator and they can put a request in for the base funding. If it's something, you know, that is going to increase independence. And the base funding basically kind of mirrors waiver funding as far as what, you know, what qualifies for the funding. And everything else that I noted was covered very nicely, I wanted to add, and that's all I can think of right now. So, but I'm here for questions.
So it's good. We can open it up for questions. You can put them in the chat box and we can ask different presenters to answer them. As far as get all this information sent to you, I will send you, put the resource list. It's at the top of the chat, but at the end, I'll put it back in the chat box. You will have be able to contact each individual and they can show you, and the PowerPoints. I can share the PowerPoint. I believe, Megan, you sent that to me earlier. And if someone wants, they can just email me and I can, or you can email the presenters directly, but if you need to. So questions?
This is Susan. So I thought I would kind of explain why I think our funding guide would be an overall useful document for people. And I think, Jill, you kind of alluded to it a little bit of it's really helpful to know which category your assistive technology falls under. Because some things will be durable medical equipment, like a wheelchair, for example. And that's fairly easy to get funded, depending on all kinds of, you know, qualifications, but that's paid for by insurance. So my son has cerebral palsy and he's a wheelchair user. And so getting a hospital bed for Michael was really pretty easy because it went through his insurance. It's durable medical equipment. Getting a mattress that is an air mattress was fairly easy. I had to tell the, you know, what the need is and provide the justification. So remember, always be thinking about need and justification. And have you ever tried it before and did it work? So, you know, to prevent pressure sores, because Michael really doesn't have much independent use of his body, he got an air mattress and he has never had a sore. So, you know, that's really useful. Other things, for example, different kind of communication devices. I would highly recommend trying them out from the Equipment Lending Library, from Patan, something like that, and talk about what worked, what didn't work, And is it tied to healthcare? So like, is it tied to describing how your body feels? If so, insurance will probably pay for it. If it's being used primarily as a learning tool, then your school district may pay for it. But in any case, we should not. I mean, we would really push back on and help advocate for different funding sources. You should not have to take a loan out for an augmentative communication device. Now, Jackie's organization and our organization years ago went to the Stabler Foundation and got some grant money for tablets because we believe that like everybody needs a tablet. I happen to be an Apple person. My coworker Tracy is an Android. So it's just whatever tablet. So if you come to us for a tablet and you go to Jackie's program, the Tech Owl program, where that you can try out these tablets and you figure out what tablet works for you and what your apps are that you need. Remember, their program, it's a loan, you're borrowing it. So 4 weeks later, you give it back, but you figured out what you need, right? So one option is to come to us. And for every tablet, we can give you a partial grant. So if it's $800, we can give you a partial grant of $400 and $400 at a 0% loan, 0 fees. Why is this important? A, you get what you want from the vendor you want. And I think something Megan mentioned is that for every loan we extend, we are also reporting your repayments to the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Remember, we care about financial education. We care about helping you build positive credit. What will that do for you? It will help you, if you don't have any credit, get a job, get an apartment in your own name. If now more and more employers are, when they interview you, you've already, when you do all those documents, your own name, social security, they're also asking you, can they pull your credit? When they do, if you have no credit, they've decided they can't tell your character. If you have thin credit or good credit, good, more than thin, which is one trade line, you're going to get that interview. So our loans are designed to help you get that interview. Our loans are designed to help you get that apartment. So figure out, and our book can help you figure out, what is your classification? Is it a home modification? That's a totally different funding stream. Like, there are rural areas of the state, and Maureen, a lot of your area is rural. The Department of Agriculture has several grant programs to help you with home modifications in rural areas. 504 under the Department of USDA grants. So it really does matter that you kind of figure out your strategy, and we help pull that together in that information and assistance, that funding guide. And I see that Megan also put up the smart homes information for you.
And the only thing I'd like to add too is, if you're looking at private funding sources and some of these Lions clubs and other groups, if you have denials from insurance or denials from everybody, these places that you've tried before, keep those, because a lot of places, if they're payer of last resort, they want the documentation that you've been denied by other sources. So hang on to them because you might need them.
Good advice. Don't throw away anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, when it comes to applying for something, whether it's AT, services, health insurance, school stuff, don't throw away anything, because you cannot appeal or ask for a variance without that documentation.
They have put some items in the chat boxes. I will put the resources in there again. Any other questions? Find these resources. Okay, well, thank you very much. If you have ideas of trainings that you want us to cover, please email us. We're always looking for ideas that on items of interest that you need to know about. We can find the presenters. Thank you to the presenters. You did a wonderful job on a complicated subject and gave us great resources. So if you don't get it here, you can always email me and I can send something out. But I really appreciate the time that you've given to us, the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 presenters for everyone and for the committee that puts this together. Thank you.
Thank you.